The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Kent Fire Washington, on your new apparatus, job number 29204. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started with a brief orientation of your apparatus. On the passenger side, located in the bumper, large diameter intake. Moving inward, you have two closed tow hooks. Moving just inward of that location, you have dual air horns. And moving just inside of that location, this is the electronic sirens. Moving up onto the front bumper on the passenger side, this is going to be your mechanical siren. Moving to the far other side, on the driver's side, this is going to be an 1.5-inch discharge port. Moving up onto the body, either your right and left turn indicators. Moving just inside that is your headlight cluster. This is the low beam. Moving just inside that location, on the very center, this is your high beam headlight. Moving up onto the top, these are going to be two independent warning lights. Moving to the brow of the top of the apparatus, these are your running lights that stretch across the top. Moving further up, this is a full width light bar. In the very front on the brow, there is going to be a forward-facing fixed flood. Moving all the way to the very top, this is your go light, which is an electronically controlled spotlight. Just inside the center of your light bar, this is your Opticom. As we look underneath the very bottom of the apparatus, the display here is indicating the TAC4 front suspension. This is going to be the drain port for your front 1.5 inch. You also have a forward-facing perimeter light. Moving on to that side of the same of the 1.5 inch, this is going to be that front discharge drain. Moving to the left, this is your large diameter drain. Moving up from that location is an access panel door. Moving up just from that location onto the body is a right turn camera. This is the access door, and right adjacent to it is an emergency warning light. As we open the door, this gains access to your cab lift. This is your front inlet drain. I also have some close-ups of some of the independent components that we spoke about just earlier. Once again, mechanical siren. This is the tub area that houses the large diameter intake. Moving across to the center, there is also a tub that can hold additional hose. It's also strapped on the very top for security. Once again, front view of the face of the bumper. Looking at the 1.5 inch discharge, you can see the two uprisers. This is to prevent the swivel from moving further back than the set point. Generalized view of the headlight cluster and turn and emergency light. Looking overhead, a close-up of your go light, forward-facing flood, and Opticom. This is looking at the driver's side just above the front bumper. Air intake, there is a filter behind this. Generalized view of the driver's side. We're going to focus in on the front bumper section. As you can see, there is a warning light. This is your air inlet auto eject, in addition with your shore power auto eject 20 amp plug. Moving just up from that location onto the body, this is a rear facing left turn camera. Moving up from that location, you have a left and right mirror. As you can see, it's split in the lower section for convex and flat on top. These are your Goodwheel tires. In addition, within the center, this is the Stemco hub axle assembly and seal to see the oil with a sight gauge. Looking in this compartment here at the very top, just above the front wheel, this is going to be an access compartment door. Once you gain access into the compartment door, there is an adjustable shelf on the inside. Looking above just onto the very top front section of the cab, this is a warning light. Moving to the very back section of the cab, this is a top-mounted side fixed floodlight. Also mounted just below that, this is your tank level indicator. As we go all the way down to the very bottom of the apparatus, these are going to be your battery terminals for positive and negative. In the same vicinity, just to the right, this is going to be your front discharge, foam pump intake drain, and foam pump discharge drain. These are 3 levers here. Also underneath, you have perimeter lights. Moving upward from that perimeter light, there is going to be a pull-out folding step. As you can see, once the step has been pulled into the open position, this is simply just rolled off from the very top to access the full plate of the step. Generalized view of the side of the pump panel. We'll delve into that into more great detail in the next set of slides, but I would like to focus on the webbing section of your crosslays. The orangish colored strap to remove the netting, all it's required to do is to pull that orange coated strap. Once that's done, it releases the buckles from above, allowing the netting to fall down, gaining access into the crosslays. Just to the front section of that crosslays, there is also long storage, which I assume is for your backboard storage. As you can see, you have crosslays 1, 2, 3, and a 2.5 inch crosslay, all of these which are capable of foam. Moving up to the top section of the pump panel, at the very top, you'll see that there are a foam A in red, water level in blue. Moving across, there is your pump discharge and your pump intake. There is also at the very top 4 lights, only currently 3 are illuminated. The 4th will illuminate when the pump is properly engaged into gear. Also looking at the very top, there are 2 silver quarter turn pull knobs which gain access to the rear of the panel. We'll talk about that in just a second. Just below that, there is a vacuum and pressure test port. Once you turn the knobs at the top and go ahead and release them, this will gain access to the rear section of the panel, which is pictured here. Let's take a generalized look at the whole entire pump panel, and then we'll go ahead and go into some details on that. This is going to be the upper section of the pump panel just beneath the gauges we talked about. We'll get into a little bit more depth of those gauges here shortly. And why don't we go ahead and start with the upper left-hand side of the pump panel. This is your FRC controller. This controls the engine throttle. It also has a check engine light and a stop engine light available on this, providing you a additional amount of information regarding your oil pressures, water temperatures, and battery. Moving to the right-hand side of that, this is going to be your TFT monitor operation station. This controls your master stream device. As we move to just a little bit further to the right-hand side, you'll see a bank of switches. On that bank of switches, starting at the very top, there is a light, in addition with the location for a future switch. Moving down, there is the panel light, do not open the throttle with an indicator, a red switch for air horn, a future switch again, and your cord rewind. Moving just down from those set of switches, this is going to be your generator start-stop, also preheat, the driver light pole, officer light pole, flood, and rear pole light. Moving just to the left, looking at the gauges, you'll see the engine cooler at the top, the engine recirculating. Also moving from left to right, we'll talk about some of those gauges here in the next set of images. But what I'd like to talk about first is the engine cooler and the recirculating line. These are both quarter turn knobs. Just in the upper right-hand section there, next to the engine recirculating line, this is going to be an audible alarm. It is adjustable. This is the device here. Simply move the outer cover to cover the speaker, which will decrease, and then currently it's in the full open position, which allows it to be at its loudest position. Moving just down from that location, this is your Pierce placard. It provides you with your job number. It gives you information on your pump as far as the GPM, RPMs, and pressure for those. In addition, at the very bottom with the governed speed of 2,100 RPMs. Let's talk a little bit about the gauges. All of these gauges here are electronic valves. They are color coded, as you can see. They're clearly identified by their, like for example, number 3 officer side discharge. You'll notice that these also have foam capabilities. This is your tank fill location. There's an open and closed position on this. Moving just down from that location from the tank fill, this is going to be your primer, which is going to be a push auto prime off or prime. As we move just down from that position, you're going to see a air inlet. This is going to be your rinse outlet. Rinse outlet. This is also just underneath the cross lays. You're also going to see the number 1 and number 3 cross lays. Just next to that rinse outlet, this is also going to be your cooler outlet. This is either cooler on or off. Looking as a generalized view of the lower section of the pump panel, these are for your discharges. Once again, take note that they are color coded to the discharge port. The labels will match from left to right as far as number 1, number 2, and number 3. As you can see, once again, these are all showing in the current open position. Moving just slightly right of that, this is the rest of your electronic discharges. You can see the number 3 cross lay, the 2.5-inch cross lay, the number 1 driver's side cross lay. Once again, electronic valves. Let's go ahead and move just further down from that location to the TFT position here. This allows you to see what the position of the officer main inlet is. Just beneath that, you can see it on the very bottom. So there is also at the very top the front inlet. And as you can see in the green here, this is the officer side large diameter discharge located in green. And just to the right of that is the officer side large diameter discharge drain valve. Also looking to the right hand side, color coded in the red, this is the number 1 driver's side discharge, a 2.5-inch discharge. Moving just down and to the right of that location of that officer side large diameter discharge, this once again is the drain valve for that location. As you look at the large section of tape here, this is going to be the driver's side main inlet for the eye of the pump. There is also a warning label with looking inside of that location for your own safety. This is going to be just to the right of that. This is your tank to pump. You can see that the out is open and the in is closed on this. From this location, we're going to go ahead and move downward and over to the left-hand side or front of the cab of your pump panel. In this section, you'll see lower left-hand corner just above the step. This is going to be a placard regarding your Husky foam system. Also, I should have mentioned to you earlier, the red section at the very top, this is going to be your foam control system. These are the placards I'd like you to familiarize yourself prior to operating the Husky 12. Once you've had an opportunity to review that, we'll go ahead and move over to the right-hand side. These are going to be your drain valves in addition with your front air inlet bleeders, number 1 cross lay, number 3, number 1 driver side. You can see the very bottom. There's also a main manifold drain. Looking up at the top, you have an air supply and an air outlet. Moving all the way across to the very far right-hand side, as you can see, the manifold drain, flush valve drain. This is also a location of your manual pump shift. and just above that, this is going to be your pump drain for the main portion of your pump. We'll move just to the top of that and we'll take a look at this generator operating instructions. This is for your onboard generator that's located up in the very top of the apparatus in its own covered location. We'll talk about that in the next set of slides here in the future. As we look to the right hand side of the pump panel, lower right hand side, you'll see the manual pump shift. As you also move just right of that, you're going to see a covered door in addition with your wattress placard. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next set of images. Moving just up, you can see a corner of the red placard, but here's the full placard here for your wattress pump. You have a CSU style pump model. It also gives you your transmission model, the date of manufacturing, its capacity, in addition with the ratio 2.46, and it also gives you minimum and maximum discharge PSIs. In that panel that we talked about earlier, this is going to be your foam level to go ahead and fill, and you can move that and read the instructions on the left-hand side. This is for filling of your foam system. Just a little bit closer up image of that. As we move just to the right of this panel, you'll see this is the location of your auxiliary foam functions. This is a foam inlet. Inside there is a foam strainer, and this is also the foam tank drains. Looking at just the right-hand side, just off the side of this location, these are going to be your work lights in addition with currently in the downward position or use position are your folding steps to gain access to the upper sections of the apparatus. At the very top of these steps, you'll notice there is an electrical junction box here. The cord is just inside the top, and I've got some additional images for that, and we'll go over that. As we move to the very top of the apparatus, this is going to be your large diameter discharge gun at the very top. This is a TFT brand for Extend-A-Gun, and then you'll have your monitor and all that attached on top of that. This is an automatic monitor that you can control from the ground. Just in front of that, or I should say behind that, this is going to be the fill location for your hydraulic oil. This is the compartment that houses your generator. And later on, I'll have a few images with that compartment door open so you can look inside. We're going to look at the back section of your apparatus, the body of the apparatus here. We'll go ahead and get started just at the very base of the front of the body. Looking underneath the apparatus, you'll see that there is a push foot pedal for your reel rewind. In addition, just to the right of that, this is going to be your folding wheel chock. It's currently in the stowed position. I've got an additional close-up of that, and then as we look down from ground lower, you're also going to be able to see your tire chains that are automatic, which switch from the cab. Also in the very back, you can see the fold down step, mud flap also, in addition with a side anchor point. Just past the side anchor point is the back half or rear section of the tire for your wheel chock. We're going to look inside the cabinets now. As we look inside, this is a two-part door. First, the twist handle will allow you to open the first section of the door. Following that, reach inside. There is a lever. Attached to that lever is also a chain, which allows you to easily reach in and grab a hold of that, lift in the upward position, which will allow you to gain access to the second door. Once the second door has been opened, you'll gain full access and use of all of the shelving within that location. Looking at the interior of the front of this compartment, you can see at the very bottom there is a pull-out shelf. There is a mechanism which I have some pictures of later on. There's also a fixed shelf which is also adjustable. but looking up at the very top of this compartment, there are some components on the left-hand side. One of those components is your generator control, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. This is going to be your generator switch here. This is the IRT disable, the IRT enable. There are two illuminating lights here. This is also going to provide you the frequency, the amps for lines 1 and 2, in addition with AC volts. Moving just up from that location, this is going to be a timer. This timer has the ability to put its own, or to adjust those hour settings as to when you'd like those to be activated. As we move just to the right of that to the tan box, this is your electrical breaker box. Once again, this is the G1 box, which is referencing the generator. You can also see just to the left on the fixed section of the door, there is a placard which gives you information on what each one of those breakers controls. Moving back to that breaker box at the very top, this is going to be a yellow plaque, which is your continuous power supply rating. This is going to provide you with information on voltage, frequency, and phase. And as we move down in this compartment, you can see a little bit better view of that shelving that's adjustable on the left-hand side. A little bit of room for travel there, but the very bottom shelf is a pull-out shelf, which is also adjustable. This is the latch that you depress to activate the mechanism to allow the door to be opened, or the shelf to be opened. Let's take a look at some of those compartments that are just near the rear wheel. Looking in the front section of the rear wheel, you'll see that there is a compartment that opens. There are two of them, both front and aft of the rear, in addition with a side marker light, in addition with a warning light. Near the side warning or driving light, this is going to be bottle storage. There are two available spots here for bottle storage. Moving just backwards or to the rear of the truck, this is going to be an emergency light just over the center of the rear wheel. And as we move further back from that location to the rear of the truck, this is going to be the location for the door, which is for access for the fuel and the DEF fuel. I've got a picture of that here as the door is in the open position. If you look at the picture, you can see it's currently revealing the diesel fuel cap. Once the cap is removed, filled, then when you're done, basically pull that lever down. The lever allows you to gain access to the DEF location, which is in the blue section, and this is for your diesel exhaust fluid. Looking at the center compartment, center-mounted adjustable shelf. We'll move to the rear section of this compartment here, to the very last compartment on the driver's side. As you can see, you have a wood board mounted on the side, in addition with storage just beneath that location. Underneath this location, you can see an attachment point for a winch. Also, you can see to the right-hand side, this is going to be the back section of your folding wheel chock. Generalized view of the driver's side of the vehicle. We'll now start with the rear of the apparatus. Once again, just a generalized view of the entire rear section of your apparatus, and we'll start from the very bottom section, just underneath the bottom tailboard. As you can see, you have an additional step here that folds down with additional running lights and step lights. To activate that shelf itself, it just merely pulls out, which allows you to gain additional space for stepping up to the main section of the deck. Directly in the center is going to be an attachment point or toe location. Once again, generalized view of the apparatus. We're going to go ahead and start on the left-hand side of the apparatus, very bottom section. You'll see this light cluster at the very bottom of the light cluster. This is going to be your reverse. Just up from that, turn, brake, and then an emergency light within that cluster. Outer edge is a reflector. Moving up from that, this is going to be your rear pole light. This is going to be your rear dump suspension, which is also accessible from the cab, in addition with your deck light. You can see this is the fixed location for mounting your illuminated license plate. Moving up from this location, you'll see that there is a yellow warning light. And as you can see on the right-hand side, this is the pull. Simply turn the anchor point, and which will allow it to freely move up and down and tighten it to secure it in its location. As we look at the knob here, you can see turning to the right would tighten, turning to the left would loosen and allow it to freely travel. The next image is just with the pole in the upright position. You can also see that the light in itself is movable from the very top section. Looking at the left-hand side, this is going to be your step lights in addition with work lights. Currently the steps are in the fold-down position, and from there I'd like to start at the very center of your apparatus, looking at the yellow lights all the way across. This is going to be your traffic advisor. It's controlled from the very section of the front of your cab. In addition, you have a roll-up door in this location, which is similar to the roll-up doors with inside the cab as far as their operation. Once the door is in the rolled up section, you'll see that you have a pull-out shelf in this location. It's also depressed with the lever on the right-hand side. Moving up just from that location, you'll see a compartment door on the left-hand side. Once this compartment door has been opened, the next set of slides will show this is the location for long storage, in addition with the storage of your foam hose. This is going to be a section once again of the warning labels, in addition with your traffic advisor. Just underneath the traffic advisor is your backup or reverse camera, located in the center just above the Pierce logo. This is your large diameter discharge on the very right hand side. Looking just beneath the large diameter discharge, there is an access panel. To gain access into that location, turn the lever. Once you've gained access, this is the location of your 10-foot attic or folding ladder, in addition with long-handled tool storage. Same actuation mechanisms for opening the cover in the back of the apparatus as is on the passenger and driver side to gain access into those crosslays. There are 4 dividers in this location on the left-hand side. The other side is completely open for hose storage. What I would like to talk about now is your ladder rack storage for storing your ladders. The ladder rack has 2 mechanisms in the front and also in the rear, as you can see here. Once the power switch is turned on, the actuation will then move into the open position, allowing that ladder rack to be moved. This is a quick shot of the latches in the closed position or secure. Once the switch is activated, the green light will turn on. This will then allow those latches to move into the open position, allowing you to lower the ladder into any position. This is an image here of the front section with the latch in the open position. As we move to the rear, this will show you an image of the rear with the mechanism in the open position. As you are spotting your apparatus to lower the ladder rack, take into consideration that it does take a significant amount of room to the right-hand side of your vehicle, and watch for obstructions. Also, there are warning lights when this is moved to its lower section. There are also reflectors and reflective tape. On the storage location of this piece of equipment here, you have a 28-foot extension ladder, you have a 16-foot roofer, and you also have a 14-foot roof. There is also additional long pole storage just above the ladder itself. As we look to the very top of the apparatus, there are additional storage locations. In addition, this is the storage location, main access point to get to your fill and also to get to your electrical reel. As you can see on the left, this is your tank fill, and on the right-hand side, this is your electrical reel, which the box is just on the opposite side of that panel. This is going to show a general view looking from the front to the rear with both of the covers in the open position. As you can see, a tremendous amount of storage on the right-hand side for hose, and then your apparatus is configured with 4 dividers that are also movable on the left-hand side. As we look just forward of that, this is going to be your foam fill for tank A foam, which is latched, and you can see that latch here. As we look to the fill tank for water, it does not have a latch. Looking just to the opposite side of this location, there is going to be an additional storage location that is also covered. As you can see, next to the open two compartments here is your deck gun, and just to the right of that is another closed compartment. This is the location for top access for your generator. This is going to be the hydraulic oil fill on the backside, which is difficult to see. There is a sight gauge on the very top. There is a fill cap location. Looking forward, once again, these are your cross lays. 3 dividers here. There's a total of 4 spots for cross lays. Moving to the very front of the cab, I would like you to take note of the right and left hand side. There are warning labels indicating that there should not be any standing in these areas or on this top section. You do have a fully covered hose bed with 2 latches for gaining access. And now we're going to move to the passenger side of the vehicle, generalized view of the passenger side. And we're going to go ahead and start looking into the inside of these compartments and discuss a little bit of the components within inside those. Once again, this compartment is a tool action compartment. Requires you to open one door, reach inside, pull the pull chain, or activate the lever to open the opposite side door. Once you have accessed that, you can see on the very bottom, you have a pull-out rolling shelf. At the very top section, there is also a adjustable shelf. And up in the upper left-hand corner at the very top of this apparatus, I would like to point out there is a electrical outlet. And I think I have that in the next image here shortly. This is the electrical outlet. In addition, you see the red and black termination blocks. This is for 12-volt DC. And as you can see on the right-hand side, this is going to be a Shoreline outlet, which is a 15-amp circuit. This is an image of the 12-volt DC. This is going to be the pull-out shelf on the very bottom. The little black lever here is what indicates for pushing down to access the wheels to unlock and roll forward. Underneath this section also, you have a folding wheel chock, and just forward of that is an additional attachment point for a winch. General location here, just above the passenger side rear tire, 3 compartments, and we'll look into those 3 compartments here shortly. This is just to the rear of the rear wheels. This is a bottle storage location. We'll move just forward of this compartment, and you'll see once accessed into this compartment, this is the equipment rack hydraulic reservoir for your ladder rack. Moving just forward of this location, there is a marker light in addition with a 2-section bottle storage compartment. Moving downward just from this current location, we'll find a warning sticker regarding the diesel exhaust and its temperature. Moving down just in front of the diesel exhaust is also an additional exhaust for your generator. Moving just forward of that location, this is your storage location for your folding wheel chock. Looking back to the rear section of the wheel, this is going to be your automatic chains for both right and left rear wheels. They are activated via a switch in the operator's cab. Looking at the center of this compartment, once again, 2-step compartment, open the door, pull the chain on the inside, which allows you to open both. Once both doors are in the open position, you'll be able to open the equipment rack here by just twisting the handle and pulling outward towards you. This is hinged on the right-hand side. Directly behind that is additional piece of wood for tool storage. Moving to the very front compartment here, which is a tall compartment. As we look inside this compartment, you'll see that at the very bottom of this compartment, there is a pull-out shelf. Moving up from that, there are 2 adjustable shelves. Moving forward of that, just above the pump panel, this is the same actuation of the netting on the same as the back, and on the opposite side, to gain access into this, pull the strap, drops the netting down. You have 4 additional cross lays in this location, in addition with a closing front storage for board storage. Looking at a general view of the pump, we'll get a little bit more into the components that are actually on the midsection of this pump. Starting in the upper section, this is going to be a work light. As we move down from that location, you're going to see once again, this is the power equipment rack controls. Moving down just from there, you have a 2.5-inch discharge port on both right and left here. As you can see, the power equipment rack, once you activate the power rack to the on position, that's when it will release the mechanism, allowing you a green light and allowing you to either lower or lift the ladder rack. Once again, a close-up view of the 2.5-inch discharge port. You will also find an opening quarter turn pull to access behind the panel. As we look closer at this section of the pump panel, you're also going to see down on the left-hand side an access door. This is the access door to where your pump strainer is located. As you move to the right of that, you'll see the large diameter intake, and moving further right to that, you're going to find your large diameter discharge. In addition, just beneath that large diameter discharge, there is an additional access point for accessing and viewing inside the pump area. As you look to the lower section, I have a couple close-up images of this. We're just above the step. And as we look at the left-hand side, we'll start with the number 3 officer side discharge water foam drain, number 2 officer side, and then this is the water strainer drain, which was up in that compartment above this. Also, we have additional discharge drains, the 2.5 crosslay and the number 2 crosslay drains. Moving all the way to the right-hand side, you can see a compartment door just above that. We'll access that shortly, but let's look at the very top section. This is your 2.5 crosslay. Moving to the right-hand side, there is also a number 2, and just up underneath this location are lights. This is the access point that cover behind or beneath the 2.5-inch discharge ports. As we move down to the very lower section of the pump panel, this is the same concept or step as it is on the opposite side. Just to the left of that step, this is going to be your front inlet drain. And as you have probably already seen in the previous sections of the video describing how to access the step, once it's been pulled out, the upper section then unfolds towards you, allowing you full access to the step. Let's now move to the very front of the cab. As you can see at the very top, this is your pole light. Also in this picture is your water tank indicator level. At the very top is a fixed mounted floodlight. Moving forward of this position, you have a warning light. In addition to the warning light, just slight below that, there is an additional access point or compartment door. Once you gain access into this compartment door, there is also a adjustable shelf within inside this compartment door, and you also have interior access to this location also, fully illuminated with LED lights. Let's look at the passenger side all the way down at the very bottom of this door, just by the entry point. As we look down at the very bottom, this is going to be your passenger side inlet. This is the relief valve on the right and the drain on the left. Generalized view with the compartment doors open and the steps in the fully extended location. We're now going to start looking at some of the interior components within, but prior to that, I would like to make note of the warning and hazard labels in these areas. This is going to be the locking mechanism and window retract up and down activation switches. You also have plunging door locks. Looking at the driver's side door, there is additional warning and safety levels here. Please make note of those. Moving just downward of this point, this is going to be your air actuated steps to gain access into the cab. You're now looking at the driver's seat. As we look further into the driver's seat, at the very bottom of the seat right hand corner, this is going to be your auto charger. The auto charger is when your vehicle is plugged into shore power. This will regulate the amount of power going to your batteries and display that information. Here's a close-up of that image now. As we look at the driver or operator seat, just underneath the operator seat, you'll see the blue hose coming up. This is your air hose to increase or decrease when the height is needed. You also have controls just to the right of that also. Looking just down at about the driver's ankle level, right ankle, you'll find a yellow placard. This is the yellow placard that is from Pierce that indicates information about your apparatus. There are also caution and warning labels, but I would like to just call out a few things on this. The location 1 of the manufacturer of the vehicle, the date it was manufactured. This is also where the job number is located. This is also where you'd find the VIN number, additional information for fluids and fluid capacities and the types of fluids that would be necessary for your apparatus. Looking at the left side of the driver's seat, you'll also find 2 foot pedals. One is an electronic siren and the other is your mechanical siren. Moving up onto the dash, just above that location, you're going to find a seatbelt alarm. You're also going to find 2 ports for your diagnostic for SRS, transmission, and engine. It's also the location of the command zone. Moving from that, you're going to find your main battery switch, and to the right, your pump shift. Moving to the column. On the column, you're going to find your windshield wipers. You're also going to find just underneath this, your hazard lights. This is push for telephoto, for moving the steering wheel forward and backwards or toward you, and push for tilt, which allows you to move it forward and backwards. Generalized view of the cab. Look down at the right-hand side of the operator's knee level. You'll find the high idle, OK to gauge high idle, IRT disable, IRT activate, a couple of tire chains and the fuel primer. Looking at the left-hand side, you're going to find your ignition, panel lights, headlights, and start. And if we look on the main panel, this is where you're going to find on the far left-hand side, we'll go through some of those gauges as to what's that about. But on the left-hand side, there is a yellow placard. That yellow placard gives information on your vehicle as far as weight ratings, and I have that in the next slide. What we're imaging here is your tire pressure. This is the placard that I was referring to. Your height of the vehicle, 11 feet 2 inches. Your length, 3310. And it weighs in at 24.90 tons. This also has the job number. This is going to be for the operator. This is the go light on the very top of the apparatus. A single spotlight, which is electronically movable. This is going to be your information center that illuminates if you have a problem with your apparatus or gives information at startup. Moving down from that location, just a generalized view of the cab dash area, and we'll start in the upper left-hand corner of the cab, starting with your climate control. Moving down from this location, you'll find your first set of rocker switches. Those switches include the engine brake selector for low, medium, high, your DFP or DPF regen inhibit in red, your off-road traction, and your front wheel lock. This is going to be your officer. These are your window controls for officer, driver side, cab, and passenger side, an SRS fault, your heat, in addition with the generator start and stop. This is the Pierce command zone. Gives you pertinent information in regards to the apparatus, including seatbelt locations. This is going to be your main parking brake. To apply, pull. To release, push. Moving down from this location, this is going to be your Allison transmission pad. As you can see a note in yellow at the very top, you pump this vehicle in drive. Moving just to the operator's right-hand side, you'll see that there is a traffic advisor. In addition, at the very top on the faceplate here, you'll see the right and left mirror controls, and it also controls the convex mirror. This is the control for your rear traffic advisor. Just beneath the traffic advisor, there are generator operating instructions. Looking just over the operator's head at the very top hand section, there is a yellow APP 769, which I assume is your apparatus number for your department. Moving across the very top, generalized view of the overhead components, and we'll talk a little about each of those here in the next set of slides. Looking at the visor, this is going to be a quarter turn to release the visor. Looking directly over the operator's head, there's going to be a set of panel switches here in addition with a focused beam light. And we'll now go over some of those overhead switches. This is your emergency master in red. There is a front warning, side warning, rear warning, high beam flash, Opticom momentarily. Moving from that, this is your front scene, driver scene, officer scene, deck lights, perimeter, wheel, a future for additional things, in addition with a suspension dump. Passenger and driver side floods. This is also the air horn, siren brake, and you can see 3 future locations for switches if you choose. Looking directly in the center of the cab, at the very top you have a radio. Just beneath that radio, there is your PA system and your siren for the front electronic siren. This is your electronic siren and PA. Moving just in front of those toward the front windshields, this is going to be a light that flashes if you have any compartment or any of the triggered switches for non-movement of this vehicle. Generalized view of your headsets with your Firecom system. Also looking just behind the seat, there's going to be the fill for your windshield wipers. Let's start by looking at the rear section of the cab. As we look inside the cab, we're going to see some roll-up compartment doors. Those compartment doors are accessed from the rear section of the cab. They span the full distance of the entire cab. There are 3 separate roll-up doors. Inside those roll-up doors, there is adjustable shelves, which I have some images here shortly. Correction, I'm sorry, there are only 2 doors, not 3. On the very top of this set of cabinets, there are also 3 seat belts that span across from back to front. Just above this section here overhead, there are compartments which are accessed from the rear. We're now looking at the rear section of your SCBA seats. Just beneath those SCBA seats, you'll see a front compartment access panel. As you open this front access panel, this will give you access into a variety of different electronics. This also has its own fan for cooling. There is also shore power outlets in here. Looking at the rear section once again, you can see this is your air conditioning unit at the very top with additional Firecom and LED lights for detaching for going mobile. This is your air conditioning unit. In the very front of this location, you'll see there are a on-off switch in addition with a fan speed switch. This is going to be a generalized view looking from the outside of the cab to the inside. You'll have an additional fold down seat on the passenger side, 2 SCBA mounted in seat. Looking at the front cab, you'll see on the driver's side, you'll see warning labels on the door in addition with a light for step. Moving up from that, this is your switch for electronics for the windows and door lock. As you can see, there is a SCBA mounted front passenger seat. Moving just underneath that, this is the lift to pull the seat forward and back. In addition, for lifting up and down, it is an air ride seat. There's a switch on the left. Looking down at the base or at the feet, you're going to have 2 foot pedals once again, air horn and mechanical siren, just as you do on the driver's side. Your vehicle is also equipped with a supplemental restraint system. This is the location of the airbag. There is also a warning label regarding putting any equipment in front of this piece of equipment. On the upper right-hand side, there is a grab handle, which you can see just above that is also the visor. Once you're in the cab, if you were to extend your right arm to the front, you'll find a map light. Moving just to the left-hand side, you're going to find a floodlight, and you'll find a variety of different types of 12-volt power. There are 3 12-volt power, which are similar to a cigarette lighter or barrel style, and you have 2 additional USB ports. I have a close-up of those also. As you can see, one is a 2.1 amp and the other one is a 1 amp. Moving just forward of that location, this is going to be the port for the vehicle data recorder. And moving just on to the front section of the dash, you're going to find a 12-volt spotlight. We're now going to look overhead in the passenger seat. Those components include on the right-hand side, you can see the Go light, which is the electronic light on the top of the vehicle, which is a spotlight. Just over the passenger's head, there is a focused light for map reading. Just moving to the panel of switches, you have your front scene, driver scene, officer scene, siren brake, and 3 additional future locations. In addition, just to the right of that, or left of that, I'm sorry, you'll find your speedometer. This is going to end the orientation of your new apparatus for Kent Fire. Congratulations on your new apparatus. If you have any questions, please direct those to your salesperson at Hughes Fire Equipment. Thank you.